Hello everyone. Welcome to our North Coast Trail 2026 Planning Sessions live event. I'm Mike Blake at MB Guiding, your Vancouver Island hiking guide. We're streaming to you on YouTube and Facebook Live from the Saanich Peninsula on southern Vancouver Island in beautiful British Columbia. Say hello in the chat and comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We're just going to take a few minutes to make sure the live stream is running smoothly and see who else shows up in the comments. Hey, Gary from Abbotsford, welcome. Hey, Adina from Courtney, welcome. And Laura, Rita from Coquitlam, welcome. Hey, Adam from Saanich, welcome. Dan from Calgary, welcome. Hey, Spatch 1971 on YouTube and from Mission, welcome. Brad and Airdrie, welcome everyone. Lara upstairs, excellent. Great. We've got, looks like 18 folks here on Facebook and 4 so far on YouTube, now 5. Yeah, so say hey in the chat there, say where you're tuning in from. And I'm just going to get going here. It looks like things are working. We're streaming out. I see our stream on both channels. And it says it's not interrupting. The audio seems to be going out. Give me some thumbs up if it's sounding good and looking good. Hey, Annalisa from Maple Bay, welcome. Great. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. So I'm going to show you how to plan the North Coast Trail like a pro. So during this live stream, I'll share my pro tips to boost your chances of completing the North Coast Trail in a fun, safe, and rewarding way. Plus, you'll want to stick around for a fun prize giveaway. We want you to participate too, so ask questions in the chat and comments. Participation in the Q&A is going to be a part of entering the prize giveaway. Hey, Paul from Chilliwack is back on YouTube. Welcome. Let's keep going with the intro here. I've been backpacking for around 45 years and guiding for over 20 of them. Go head out to our About page, scroll down, and you'll see a bit more about me there. So Association of Canadian Mountain Guides Hiking Guide, Commercial Bear Viewing Association of BC Level 1 Guide, Interpretive Guides Association Interpretive Specialist, and I also instruct for them doing group management courses. And I've got my Advanced Wilderness First Aid Responder through Slipstream. There's also another really important part of our team here, and that's my partner, Lara. Her and I started MB Guiding about 2014, so 12 years ago, and she's a big part of the MB Guiding, and she's the creative writer behind all of our online content. She also holds the record for participating in the most MB Guiding trips and workshops. Lara's hanging out in the chat. Say hello to her over there. Okay, we got you on YouTube. Thanks for coming over there, folks that have joined us there on YouTube. And if anybody's on the Facebook page, if you could share the link to the YouTube, it's youtube.com at Mike Blake is the handle. And then they will see our live stream or else they can watch the replay. All right, so those of you who are still here, thanks for joining us on YouTube. Right on. So we're going to give away 3 awesome prize packages today, plus a bonus prize for the new YouTube viewers. Each prize package is going to contain one of these amazing maps. These are the North Coast Trail maps. Topographic map for hiking the North Coast Trail, British Columbia, by Philip Stone at Wild Isle. These used to be John Baldwin's maps, and Philip Stone took over, and he is now publishing them. So we're going to give away 3 of those. Also included in that package is going to be a one-to-one personalized coaching session for each winner to help you plan a trip like a pro. These are just like the personalized coaching sessions that our clients participate in when they sign up for our guided trips. And then for the YouTubers, which is all of you now, this was supposed to be just for you, and now it really is just for you. We're going to give away a special bonus prize. It's the Cape Scott and the North Coast Trail Hiking Vancouver Island's Wildest Coast Guidebook by Maria Bremner from Harbor Publishing. And if you haven't checked out our new YouTube channel, get over there, because that's the only place you're going to watch this live right now if it doesn't start up on Facebook. Hey, Christy from Revelstoke, welcome. Thanks, Adam Bowman, for sharing that from YouTube to Facebook. Let's see if we can get the viewers up over here from that. So far, we've got 13. We had 15 over there, so we'll see what happens. The technical challenges of live broadcasting. But thanks, Adam, for pitching in and helping out. Appreciate that. Okay, if you're keen to win one of the prize packages, hang out with us and be sure to participate in the chat. I'll share more details on how to win the giveaway towards the end of the live stream. Hey, John Farling from Pennsylvania, welcome. Good to see you here on YouTube. Awesome. Okay, we're just gonna keep going. Sans Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, but this is why we started a YouTube channel as well, so we'd have backup plans. Okay, let's get to planning our trips on the North Coast Trail. I'm going to share several resources that I use. So I'm going to go through some different websites that I use to plan trips, and then we'll look at the weather forecasting I do, route planning, and then we'll get into the tides, and then we'll do gear chat. And if we have time after all that, we'll look at the transportation methods and maybe some of the trip reports from previous trips. So let's get on into it. Just going to head on over to our website here. We're going to start on our mbguiding.ca website. This is where I plan trips from. So if you scroll down to our blog post here, there's one on the North Coast Trail. If you click on this, it'll open up a trail guide. So these trail guides are like an instruction manual for helping you to plan a trip. There's a table of contents, which gives you highlights, overview, map, guidebook, which is the one that we're going to give away, the map we're going to give away as well, the permit process, access, so Cape Scott Water Taxi, North Coast Trail Shuttle, accommodations, weather, tides, route, the different campsites, and then my favorite part of our trail guides is all the trip reports we post there. And we've tried a lot harder in the last couple of seasons to post more of them. So we're just going into looking at the trail guide here on our website. If you're just joining us now, you'll find us at mbguiding.ca. Scroll down and click on the North Coast Trail Guide post here. And this is your instruction manual to plan the trip. So we've outlined some highlights of the trail here, that it's remote wilderness, a lot of wildlife viewing potential, lots of old growth forests and upland bogs, amazing sunsets on the beaches, epic beaches up there. And there's a ton of First Nations and early European history, settler history. Yeah, so lots of things to check out up there, lots of experiences. It's on the north coast of Vancouver Island in Cape Scott Provincial Park, so it's in a BC park. Several different First Nations have ancient village sites up there. The official North Coast Trail distance is 43.1 kilometers. Then it goes from Shishardi Bay to Nissan Bight. So it's a little bit shorter for the official section of the trail than the West Coast Trail, but I would say it's as challenging at least, maybe more so depending on the route and weather conditions. We typically exit the trail to Fisherman Bay there, which is about 1.5 kilometers across Nissan Bight. Or you can do a 16-kilometer hike out to the exit at the Cape Scott Trail and Cape Scott parking lot. So that's another way to do it. There's several ways to do the trip. The way that we really like doing it now is water taxi in and out. So we just do the official section of trail, then the short walk to the water taxi pickup. So we do Shishardi to Fisherman Bay in 5 days is our desired time. We do the trip combining it with the Cape Scott Trail, and what we'll do then is we'll get dropped off at Cape Siddle, and then we'll do half of the North Coast Trail, the easier half, because the trail trends to easier terrain as you go from east to west, and then finish up on the Cape Scott trails, add the Cape Scott light station in there, and then come out to the Cape Scott parking lot. The trail is open year round. You'll need a permit from May 1st to September 30th. However, if you're using the water taxi or trail shuttle, they typically do not run in the off season, which we would consider the winter. The fees are $10 per night, $5 for children, and they're collected again from May 1st to September 30th. Reservations are not necessary for the trail itself. You need a permit, but you don't need reservations. But I recommend reservations for the water taxi and the shuttle. No pets allowed, several different trailheads, 2 cable car crossings, 7 designated camping sites with water sources, food lockers, and pit toilets. Cable cars, boardwalks, ropes, bridges, stairs, lots of different terrain and structures out there. So rocky headlands, sea stacks, sea caves, tombolos, blowholes, and a ton of wildlife viewing opportunities. I typically see the most wildlife on any of my trips on the North Coast Trail. Weather is very typical of anything coastal. Heavy rain, cool temperatures, high winds, damp fog, and hot sun. Can have them all in one trip. And then the hazards are numerous. And there's no self service up there, so you're reliant on satellite technology or marine radio if you have that technology. So, what we'll do is we're going to keep an eye on the chat here. So, if you have any questions as I'm going through any of this, I've got the chat going here. See if anybody new's shown up. So, we got 15 viewers still, right on. Thanks, everybody. Sticking around on YouTube. Yep, we got the message that the Facebook live stream ended and it didn't restart. So, we've done our due diligence there, and that's as far as we can do. We'll play the replay back over there later. Let's just keep an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions, just pop them in the YouTube chat there as I'm going along here. So I'm going to go over a couple of different things here. So I've got some bookmarks at the top here. So I'm going to cover the trail guide here that we're in, and then we'll look at the Cape Scott Park website, which is where you get a ton of information here. And we'll look at Windy for weather forecasting, and we'll look at the tide charts, and then whatever else comes up in your questions. So this is your opportunity to ask questions, and I'll keep looking back and see if anything pops up in the chat. And Lara's in there too. She can help out in the chat as well. Okay, that's the format that we got here. So let's start off with the basics here. The first thing I would do if I was planning a trip to the North Coast Trail is I'd go to the Cape Scott Park website. Hey, Anamaya, you're back. Right on. More people showing up on YouTube. Thanks everyone for coming by. Okay, we're just going through these different parts of planning process here. So the first thing I would do on for every trip is go to the official BC Parks website for Cape Scott. So you're going to get your advisories listed there at the very top of the page. So anything that's closed, uh, wildlife notifications, it's all listed here in the advisory section. So you got to click on these. So it says Holberg Road closed due to landslide. Now this was from last fall. So it's open now. So you just got to know that if you see it closed, you need to open this up to check the date on it and then do your own research to see that it is reopened. So it's a bit of a planning process, as all trips are, especially these really remote ones, because things change quite a bit out there and you got to stay on it. So as a guide, I would look at all this information and cross-reference it with lots of other information. So we're going to the BC Parks Cape Scott Park website and we're looking at the advisories. So that one's out of date. This one's always in date. So dogs are prohibited except for the San Josef Bay area. So you can't take dogs into the park past San Josef Bay. They've been banned for well over a decade. So no dogs, even on leashes. And increased bear activity in San Josef Bay. That was last summer. And then the other recent message, old message actually, I should say. The Nels Bite and Cape Soodle Ranger Station cabins will be closed to public access. So you used to be able to stay in these cabins, you can't stay in them anymore. So if you're planning to hike out there and hoping to stay in a cabin, you can't. They're closed. They used to be able to stay in them in the winter. So that's no longer. Tons of info here on the page, access, wildlife safety. This is all from BC Parks. So they've outlined all the information that I think is important for you to know. Getting there, the backcountry camping, registering for a permit, when you need a permit, so when you need to register. And then to get your permit, you can do it online. You can just click on the button, it'll take you to the BC Parks registration site. Or you could do it at the trailhead. There is an Iron Ranger there. When I was out there in January, there were no envelopes there. So think about that. You need cash and potentially an envelope. There was no envelopes. So if you wanted to, document that it was you that put the money in, you might want to bring your own envelope because there weren't any there when I was there in January. Lots of things to do out there. Hiking is what we're going to focus on. So the hiking and trail information descriptions are all listed here. There's two parts to the park. There's the Cape Scott side on the west, which has been around since the 70s. And there's a bunch of trails in there that go out to the lighthouse. And then there's the North Coast Trail side. And that includes everything between Shishardy Bay and Nissan Bight, that 43-kilometer section. And when you combine the two, you get the North Coast Trail Cape Scott Park combo. So if we were planning a trip out there, the first thing we're going to do is go and check out the park's website. Make sure we have read the advisories on road conditions. And this question came up on a Facebook group yesterday or the day before, and I mentioned that I would talk about the road advisories, and they're in here. And you could also check with the Western Forest Products or whichever the company is running it now, because it changes so often. I can't keep up. But whoever's in charge of the logging access out there, I would check their website as well. So yeah, do your due diligence, get your reservation. So let's do that. Let's get a permit. You can access this from their website. You can access it from our website as well. If you scroll down to the permit section here, there's a link to the same backcountry reservation system. So this is the BC Parks reservation website. Yeah, so it's a backcountry trip, backcountry registration, Cape Scott, and now we're planning from May 1st onwards because you do not need to register prior to May 1st. So then you put in your arrival and departure, however many days you're doing there, however many nights, your party size, and your starting point. And then you search, and there's always going to be availability because it's not a reservation needed. Let's just put San Josef in and out. Let's do a yo-yo. And then click the reserve button. And then you're going to log in and figure it out. So that's pretty easy. Or you could just take the cash, like I mentioned, to the trailhead. So you check the advisories. You've got your permit. Now it's time to go hiking. So before we get into that, let's go check our chat and see what's happening in there. Hey, Mark from Shemanis, welcome on YouTube. We got 17 new in YouTube. So we saved a few coming from Facebook. Welcome to our new YouTube channel if you haven't been here, folks. Just going to top up my rooibos before I get into the next section here. Yeah, so ask any questions in the chat there as I'm going along. Excellent. Oh, great. The YouTube link was posted on the Facebook recording of the first part, the broadcast that actually went out. Okay, that's cool. Thanks for doing that, Lara. Adam's asking a question. Our first question's come in. Okay, let's pull this up. Adam on YouTube's permits, I believe, are 14 days prior to trip date. Oh, that's a really good question. Is that why I couldn't? I just didn't even think of that when I tried to reserve it just then. Is that why I couldn't reserve it for May 1st? Let me know if that's what happened, because I did try to book it for May 1st and we're way before that. Let's see that again. So obviously I can't book one for now because I don't need one for now. But if I went to May 1st and then I thought I saw something, it didn't go through. Let's just try this. Reserve. Oh, let's put the exit point in. So I'm going to do a yo-yo. Ah, very good. Yeah. So thanks for that, Adam. I've never seen this notice before, so that's great to know. I'm just gonna pop over now, show everybody. So I went back and tried to reserve a permit for May 1st to 7th, and it wouldn't allow me to do it this far out. So it says right here, there's a notification reserving these dates are not yet allowed. These dates cannot be reserved until April 17th at 7 a.m. So there you go, folks. Great. Thanks, Adam, for bringing that up. And also, I should add there's a third way to get permits too. So you can book them online here, 14 days out. Shout out to Adam for letting us know about that. You can pay for your permit at the trailhead with cash, and I would bring an envelope. And you can also pay at the Cape Scott Water Taxi North Coast Trail shuttle office. So they have the way to pay the permits there, and you print it out so you have a printed copy of it. So yeah, that's another option for you as well. So I listed that in our blog. So online, cash, Cape Scott Water Taxi. I'm gonna update the online to show that you can only do that 14 days in advance. That's great. Gary's asking, any recommendations against going solo? I don't have recommendations against going solo. I do a lot of solo hiking, and I do a lot of solo hiking up in Cape Scott Park. It is very remote, so if you go in the off season, so now, you're likely not to see anybody out there. So if that's a concern, and I mean, you need to have emergency backup plan for sure of sorts, especially if you're going solo. I'd highly recommend having satellite technology like a Garmin InReach. That would be my recommendation. When I went out there in September, so I did a trip out there in September, and if you go to our homepage, so mbguiding.ca, scroll down. I did the Cape Scott side in January. I got a nice weather window and did a solo trip out to the light station. So I was out there for 3 days, 2 nights, and it was just spectacular weather. It was really cold conditions, so everything was frozen solid. I learned then I didn't need a permit because I never been out there in the winter. So May 1st to September 30th. And that's when I saw there's no envelopes. But I did the west side of the park. So I went in the San Josef and all the way out to the light station, did 2 nights at Nels. I didn't see any cars in the parking lot when I parked. I hiked the whole trail for 2 nights. I stayed. I didn't see any campers or any other humans until I got to the light station and saw Todd and Harvey out there. They were the only two humans I saw until I went back, and about Eric Lake, I passed a group of four going in winter backpacking. And then I saw at the trailhead some hikers heading to San Josef on the third day, and there was maybe about a dozen cars in the parking lot. It was the weekend then. I went in midweek. So yeah, just so you know, even on the west side of the park, in the this time of year, you may only see the lighthouse keepers. As we get into spring, you're going to see more people. It's a more common trip for spring training, especially with the Juan de Fuca shut down right now. I imagine there's going to be more hikers up there, but I don't have any issue or saying that you shouldn't go solo if you have the proper technology to help yourself in case you get hurt to be able to get help. Yeah, summertime, Gary, you're gonna see a lot more people out there for sure. Absolutely. Like you'll be going in on the boat, especially if you're doing the boat. You're going to be going in on the boat with people more likely than not, and you're going to be coming out on the van or the boat with people. So in between, you'll see people. It's not near as busy as the West Coast Trail, but it is busier in the summer. So I think it's around 1,000 people right now in the summertime. 5,000 on the west side of the park, just going to the light station, and then about 1,000 on the North Coast Trail. And compare that to the West Coast Trail's 8,000. So yeah, you'll less people. Um, John, yes, is the answer to that question. This is from John. Yeah, so whenever you go on a trip with us with MB Guiding, we take care of all the logistics. Thanks, John, for bringing that up because we're going to go show people right now North Coast Trail inclusions. Yeah, so whenever you go with MB Guiding, you get a lot included. And one of those things in that huge list of things is your permits. So if you're curious about that, folks, if you're watching and you're curious about what's included in our guided trips, it's all in the inclusions list on the website there. Thanks for bringing that up, John. Okay, we got some more questions coming in here. So Mark's considering going in April. I have done lots of solo, so feel prepped. Just wondering if there are sections of the trail that might be impassable with the likely weather. That is a very good question. So North Coast Trail will get walked through very soon. I'm gonna imagine. So there's 47K Wilderness Solutions. I'm just gonna pop over and see if I can bring up some of this over here. Just gonna back out. So where I started the talk on the BC Park site here. So in the advisory section here, 47K will get a team on the ground. I'm imagining very soon, now that there's more activity up there, and they're going to walk the whole trail, and they're going to post on here eventually. There'll be a post that will get sent to BC Parks. It'll go on here. If there's impassable sections, it'll be noted because sometimes the trail is closed due to impassable sections. So that'll be noted on here. So we have no way to know until somebody walks through, and that'll be up there. Yeah, so keep your eye on this and keep your eye on trip reports from other people. That's how you're going to know if what sections are open and closed right now. If you go in the off season right now before anyone else goes out there and does any trip reports, then you're definitely taking a risk because you're the one that's going to be telling us what's going on out there. So think about that. At this time of year, you're the one doing the recon. Great questions, folks. Keep those coming in. I'm just going to keep swapping in between the chat and the um, presentation parts of the things I'm doing here. So far we've got our Cape Scott Park website up. We've read our blog. Let's go back to the blog. We're not doing the guided trip right now. So let's go to our blog. You've read some trip reports of previous trips. Let's look at the map. So this is the map. And if you're just joining us now, we're going to give away some of these. So these are the North Coast Trail maps, the official map. It's a different cover now because, as I mentioned, Philip Stone took over. He bought this part of the business from John Baldwin, who's the original creator of these maps. These are beautiful maps on waterproof paper that now Philip Stone of Wild Owl is publishing. So check those out and chat away here in the chat and ask questions to get entered into the draw to win. Yeah, it was 2024 that Philip Stone took over and now is publishing them. If you click on our links here, it'll take you to the websites where you can purchase these and get them sent to you. You can also buy them at local outdoor stores, and you can buy them at the trailhead, or not at the trailhead. Let me rephrase that. At the Cape Scott Water Taxi office. So Babe Burrows typically has a stack there at the office. You can pick a map up there. I highly recommend having this map on board with you when you're hiking the trail because it's fun to review in the evening. That's what this picture was here when I was showing the map on our website here. It's fun to put it out and look and plan your trip for the next day, like how far you're going to go and all that. Look at the different. Getting some advice here to suggest solo for beginners is better from the Cape Scott end. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're a solo beginner on the Cape Scott side, drive in, practice in the easy parts of the trail. The trails are more groomed there on this side of the park. So yeah, solo beginner hiker, that would be a good spot to get your training. The remote nature of the actual North Coast Trail, I wouldn't go in there as a solo beginner ever. It's an advanced trip for experienced hikers. I would never do this solo as a beginner or recommend it. But solo, if you have experience coastal hiking, absolutely. Um, but make sure you have the right equipment and you've done all your due diligence to check weather, route conditions, you know how to do the tide charts, all that, which we'll get into here. Okay, so let's keep going here. The guidebook. This is the other thing we're going to give away to our YouTube. We'll give away one of these today. So the guidebooks, there's a few of them. This Maria Bremner is a great book. She spent 4 years researching it, and it's just on Cape Scotland North Coast Trail. So it's a dedicated book. It is the guidebook for the trail. I believe you can get it on Kindle, maybe not from this website, but I think you can find it on Kindle. So that's the guidebook of choice, just because it's dedicated to the trail. There's also the Tim Leedon books, the Greystone books here, as well as Taryn Eaton's book, which is also Greystone. And now those books are more overviews of multiple trails on the island. So I always come back to this Maria Bremner book because this is specific to the trail. And this is the one I would have reading. I would be reading that ahead of time, and I'd have a digital copy of it in my device because it's got really detailed route descriptions, and it shows all the really interesting little nuggets along the trail you're not going to find out about from anywhere else. And I refer to this book every trip because I'm always finding something new. So shout out to Maria for that. That was published in 2015, and it's an excellent book. Okay, let's keep going down here. So there's the covers of all the other ones. Oh yeah, shout out to Philip Stone Wild Owl. He has one called Coastal Hikes. It's out of stock, but there's a new edition underway. So that would be one I'd have in my bookcase as well when it comes out, the new one. For sure, I'd add that because Philip, now that he's also doing the map, I'm sure there's going to be some combination of between the map information and the guidebook information. So that would be a really good combo as well to have. Okay, gonna keep going back and forth. We're in the chat again. We're about halfway through the live stream, folks. So thanks to those that have come over. Those are sticking around. We got 20 viewers on now. Right on. Welcome everyone that came over from Facebook. Unfortunately, I had a tech problem there, but maybe that helped you find out about our YouTube channel. So welcome. Plus, we got the YouTube special bonus for you, which is the Maria Bremner book. Okay, Adam's asking a question here. Curious what the latest time I'd have to leave Nawiti to beat a 1 point. Ooh, that's a really good question. Yeah, so that's going to depend on the conditions because it can be really wet coming off of Nawiti up the hill, up to Long Leg Hill. It can be really wet and sloppy in there. And I call it the angled bog because you're climbing and climbing up the slope and it's really eroded out. It's like the swampiest part of the trail on the eastern side, or the western side of Nawiti there when you're heading off away from the cable car. And I'll get into a route plan here as well before the end, and I'll show you that section particularly. But I would give yourself, the morning would be a good target. So like if you're trying to get there for noon, don't sleep until 10 or 11. That's what I would recommend. There is a way to skip cable cars if you're very proficient in fording. And okay, so you need to be proficient in fording. So you have to have experience fording water. You have to have knowledge of the tides. So you want an ultra low tide, so 0 to point, I would say 3. So in there. And you need a low flow of the river. So that means no precipitation previous to your trip for a while. And I've forded both rivers, Stranby and Nwiti, and I've saved myself an hour on those crossings by not having to hike all the way up to the cable car across, back down again. But again, I recommend it only to the experience, but know that that's an option and that saves some time if all those conditions are met. Okay, so yeah, give yourself the morning to get there, Adam. I'm getting some tips about highlighting the remoteness of the North Coast Trail. So let's look at that actually. Let's get into the route, which is to get to the North Coast Trail, you got to get to Port Hardy. There's a couple of ways to get out to the trailheads. This is the way we prefer to go, is the water taxi. So we go into Shishardi and come out Fisherman. So Cape Scott Water Taxi is the provider for water drop off and pickups. They're the only company that has a BC Parks park use permit to do water pickups out there that I'm aware of. For transportation via van, they also run the North Coast Trail Shuttle. So if you're using both services, it works really well because they are from the same starting point, the same office, which is the same finish point. So the same company owns both operations, both vehicles. There is a from the West Coast Trail to the North Coast Trail. From the West Coast Trail to the North Coast Trail, the North Coast Trail is more remote. There's no highway access to either trailhead like there is on the West Coast Trail, where you have a paved highway to a trailhead, Gordon River, or now the new chip seal out to Bamfield from Port Alberni. You either have to go down a really long logging road to get there, really bumpy logging road, or you have to go on the ocean for an hour to 2 hours, depending what trailhead you're getting dropped off at. So yeah, super remote, and that would sort of be something to think about in your emergency planning. Going back up here in the overview I showed you earlier, the emergency help, there's no cell phone coverage out there. So you need to have some type of satellite messenger, or if you use Marine VHF, a VHF. But satellite messenger would be what we use. And because I'm guiding, I have redundancy built in, so I have multiple satellite messenger. So I have two of them. One's my phone as the backup, and then I have the InReach messenger. And the Cape Scott Lighthouse can provide emergency assistance if you could, get there, or if there's a critical accident, they may be able to help. But again, they're at the Cape Scott Lighthouse. You could be in Shishardi Bay, which is 5 days hike away. So yeah, it's remote. It's not like the West Coast Trail also, where there's a built-in visitor safety team 24/7. They do not have that. It's search and rescue. If you get in trouble on the North Coast Trail, you're going to be calling for help, and search and rescue is going to figure it out, and then that's how your help comes. Whereas if you call for help on the West Coast Trail, the Parks Canada visitor safety team that's on call 24/7 is going to do their best to get to you as soon as possible. And that can be anywhere from hours to longer than a day, I've heard, if the conditions aren't good enough to get out there. But now think the North Coast Trail, if it's raining and storming up there and you're caught and you're hurt, and say it's not critical and there's other things going on, you could be out there for days. So be prepared um, to be in a remote location with help far away. So thanks for suggesting that. So yeah, to show the remoteness of it too, it's the furthest northwest coast of Vancouver Island. So it's way, way out there. So we're just looking at the access. So we've got our permits, we've done our water taxi reservation. So in the summer, you definitely want to get a reservation. You can jump on last minute, but not when it's full. So just know that. Call them and talk to them. Accommodations in Port Hardy, there's lots of different places. I typically stay at the Port Hardy RV Resort because I can car camp there. And there's also log cabins. So if it's horrible car camping weather, they have really nice little log cabins. Uh, the spot where most people stay is the Quarter Deck Inn and Marina Resort because it's adjacent to the water taxi and van drop off and pickups. So it's right beside it. It's at the marina where the Cape Scott Water Taxi office is. So staying at the Quarter Deck the night before and the night after your trip is highly recommended if you're not RVing. There's also other options. The Glen Lyon Inn is right next door. The North Coast Trail Backpackers Hostel is a more budget friendly place to stay. It's downtown though, so it's a bit of a walk from the water taxi, but not too far. And if you want something a little bit more upscale and fancy, the Qualilas Hotel is really nice, and it's downtownish, just outside of town, but it's a bit of a walk. But if you have a car, it's a few minute drive. So some things to think about because you're so remote. You need a place to stay before and after your hike. And ideally, you're not driving all the way back to Victoria right the day you get back from your hike because it's 6 hours drive. So think about all that. There's also, I don't have them listed here, but there's also different campsites, recreational sites on the logging road. And I'll leave it to you to discover those. But they are sanctioned by the forest company. So there's a couple out there. Okay, let's look at our chat. Paul says he can't hear anything. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me talking. Sound check 1 2 1 2 3, because I see the sound going out on my end. Paul says he lost sound completely. I'm waiting for somebody to say that the sound is coming out. Sound check. Okay. My moderator says sound. So Paul, you might have to check your end there. Thanks, Gary. Sound is going through. Check your end. Yeah, if you're having sound issues on your end, you just need to refresh your page. That's the simple fix because it's not on my end today. For a rare day, it's not me with the audio problems. I've been fine tuning my audio. Thanks, John. Fine tuning my audio here for the 1 month while I've been hacking away at this live streaming, trying to optimize our systems. But audio is one thing I spent a lot of time on, and I can see my audio is going out here. And I just got confirmation from 4 or 5 of you that it's all good. So yeah, if you lost the sound, just refresh the page. That's a typical fix for it on YouTube. All right, we got 21 viewers here. Right on. So we're just going through planning. If you got any questions about all this as I'm going through, I keep referring back to the chat. Thanks, Annalisa. Appreciate everybody chiming in and letting me know that the sound's good. Okay, so let's look at the weather. The weather, we studied the weather before our trip using a few different resources. So I already showed you windy. Let me just clean up my top bar here so I can make it a little bit tidier so you can see the different uh, websites I'm using. Okay, so Cape Scott weather forecast. Windy is one of my favorites. I use this every day, multiple times per day. What I love about Windy is it gives you area forecast and it uses multiple models. So I'm using the European model as my default, but I can refer to 5 or so different models. And then I just added in the high resolution rapid refresh one here, I believe, or the HRDPS. That's the high resolution deterministic prediction, not the rapid refresh. But it is a really good model to have in there because it's much more high resolution. The global model, which is GFS, which is a lot of the a common model, is a very low resolution comparison. It's 22 kilometers resolution. The European model, which I use the most often, is 9 kilometers, and then that high resolution one is 2.5 kilometers. So that just shows that the point that they're forecasting for is just smaller. So what I do, first of all, is I look at the weather and I look at what's been going on. So if I'm planning a trip, in the next week or two, I want to see what's happening now, what happened last week, what's happening next week, and what's happening after that. Know that the weather you're seeing past 3 or 4 or 5 days is the resolution of it accuracy drops considerably. So you're going to have really accurate weather forecasting, 1, 2, 3 days out. But as you get past that 3 day, 72-hour barrier, that weather forecasting, it loses accuracy. So you just have to keep that into consideration. That's why I look at the weather every day, multiple times, because it changes all the time. So what I love to do, and this is a pro tip, is compare the forecasts. So look for the trends. Look for the trends between all the forecasts. If all the forecasts are saying that it's going to be sunny on Sunday, it's likely it's going to be sunny on Sunday. If all the forecasts are saying it's going to be raining a lot on Friday, it's likely it's going to be raining a lot on Friday. If there's any discrepancy between the forecasts, then it's maybe going to be doing one or the other. So that's how forecasting works, especially when you're not a meteorologist like myself. I'm a guiding forecaster, so I guide, and I have to forecast weather for my own trips. So I use the resources that are easy to use for me. But I learned how to do a few little things here from people that are professionals. And comparing models was one of the pro tips I got. So compare those models, consider what's been happening. So look at the history of how much water's fallen last week. See that it's going to be falling for the next few days. That means if you're going up there on the first sunny day, don't imagine the trail being dry because it won't be. It's going to take at least 3 days on the North Coast Trail, Cape Scott Parkside as well, so out to the light station, for any water to drain out. In the bogs, it's going to take a lot longer, but on the dry, so sandy beaches, it drains really quickly. On any of the gravel sections of trail, which is a lot of that on the west side, the old road beds that has drainage ditches dug from the settlers that were out there, the Danish settlers, they dug drainage ditches. Those sections tend to dry really well, quick, but any boggy sections don't dry well, quick. So rain last week, rain this up to this week. Saturday sunny, Sunday sunny, Monday sunny. Tuesday, it's probably going to start getting drier. So even though you've got sun on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, it's not going to, the terrain's going to be wet. Um, so it looks like maybe Tuesday, and there's no precipitation either forecast for them. But again, we're looking out almost a week, so that could change. So think about all those factors when you're doing your forecasting. That it's very dynamic environment up there. It's coastal on the north coast of Vancouver Island. You can see how remote it is looking at that map. I'll just zoom out. You're way out there in the midst of the west coast of North America. So yeah, it's quite exposed. And if there's any big systems coming through there, and they're directed at the Cape, you're going to get a lot of weather hazards. So wind, rain, flooding on the trail. So think about those things when you're forecasting. That there's things can change really quick out there. Okay, so that was the quick little blurb on forecasting. Important for sure. Annalisa's asking, what do you consider to be the hardest day? Ooh, that's a excellent question. And Lara's got a great question for you. What direction are you going? Yeah, so that's great. Keep that conversation going there because I'm going to get into the route planning and that'll lead into that as well. Okay, so we've done our weather forecasting. We're going to look at the tides quickly. So we're going to look at the tide charts. We're just going to see what the tides are. We'll use this week as an example. So there's tides midday or low. They're high in the early morning. So this week wouldn't be a good week for my planning. I like to hike on low tides in the morning. So it's kind of reversed right now. So I would pick a different week. I like to do when I wake up and I start my day at say 8, I'm walking. I want the tide to be going down to the lowest. So if it's at the highest, but it is going to be low, in the early afternoon. But I would prefer to have these low lows in the morning and then the highs in the afternoon, but not too early in the afternoon. And there's a reason for that. So if you go back to our trail guide here, there's a tide section. There's only one significant tide problem along the North Coast Trail involving a rocky cliff cutoff. And that is at Tripod Rock at kilometer 16. And it's passable at low to mid tides. There's no specific number to get past there. So people are wondering what number is there? Is it 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, like Owen Point? It doesn't exist. It's sand against rock, and the sand moves. And where that sand moves, the tide height changes constantly. Certainly over the winter, it changes a lot by several tens of centimeters, but daily it changes a little bit too. So we always aim for a low to mid tide. If you're wondering what a low to mid tide is, go to your tide chart, look for the lowest tides of your trip, look for the highest tides, and a low to mid tide is from the lowest to between the lowest and the highest. That's how you figure out. It's not like the West Coast Trail where it's more measurable. This is a different type of tide chart analysis. So you just need to learn how to read a tide chart, which is quite simple actually. It's got typically 2 highs and 2 lows per day. Typically one of the highs is higher than the other, and one of the lows is lower than the other. I like to go during full moons and new moons, so I get those nice big swings. So I get really low lows and really high highs. And if you line those up with solar as well, so when the sun and the moon are working together and you get the king tides, the spring tides, then you get these really extreme tide changes, which I love because it exposes so much intertidal terrain like this. So you get to see this, which is cool. And that's when I would cross those rivers on a low flow. Knowing how to ford rivers is on those ultra low tides. So you just need to learn how to read tides. And the best way to learn how to read tides is to go to the tide chart, which we link to right here, and just read it, look through it, learn about it, how it works. It's pretty simple. And you can look it up online. It'll explain it to you how to read a tide chart. So that brings us to the route. I see Annalisa's going Shashardi to Sanyo. Yeah, so let's do this. So let's go 10 minutes here. We're going to do some route planning before we finish. So the North Coast Trail is a challenging and strenuous coastal experience. The beach sections contain log, deep sand, wet sand, pea gravel, pebbles, slope surfaces, seaweed, algae, boulders, creeks, rocky headlands, tide problems, and tidal rivers. The rainforest sections have their own challenges: steep overland sections, blowdowns to crawl over or under, knee-deep mud or deeper. So we could update that section. I've seen it waist deep. Slippery roots. There's also man-made wooden structures such as ropes boardwalks in various stages of decay. So some of the infrastructure is from 20 years ago, and similar to the West Coast Trail, it's in a constant state of decay and rebuilding, and it takes years for the structures to come and go. Just like you'll see structures out there from hundreds of years ago or 100 plus years ago from the Danish settlers that they built, the corrugated highways. So the trail officially ends at Nissen Bight, and there's an extension to the Cape Scott Lighthouse and out to the Cape Scott parking lot. So for the official trail sections, let's do the hike from Shishardi Bay. So you can camp at Shishardi, but most people don't. They hike that day, so you get dropped off at Shishardi, hike at least to Skinner Creek, which is kilometer 9. That typically takes 8 to 9 hours. So that first section is the hardest section. Uh, it takes 1 kilometer per hour on good days. Just know that. It's slow hiking. Then, if you have extra energy, go to Nowitty. There's tent pads there. It's one of the only places with tent pads on the whole trail, and it's quite a nice camp. So if you got extra energy, jelly beans that day, go to Nowitty. There is a camp at Tripod, but it has no facilities. It just has water access. Cape Siddle's your next camp after Skinner and Nowitty. And then Irony Creek is my favorite camp. It's at kilometer 24. It's the next camp that has tent pads, but it also has 2 kilometers of epic beach camping and fresh water, easily accessible at Irony Creek. Lower Creek, another spot, has tent pads and very limited beach camping. It's quite tight in there, so just know that if you're in with big crowds, you may opt to continue to Nissen Bight if Lower Creek is full because there's no reservations. If you don't get a site there and you don't feel like squishing up against everybody else, hike the extra 5K to Nissen and you'll have another huge beach to camp on. And that's going to finish off the North Coast Trail. I'm not going to spend time on all the campsites going out to the trailhead on the Cape Scott side because there's a bunch there, because I want to show you the actual route. And the best way to look at the route is to go to one of our trip reports. So this is the trip we did last July, had a super fun group, and this was the official North Coast Trail. So this is going from Shishardi to Fisherman. So if you click on the route here, it's going to open up a CalTopo map, which shows our route that we planned, and also it's going to show, let's just switch this to a different picture here. It's going to show all the campsites that we stayed at. So the first day we did Shishardi to Skinner. That's that day. That's 9K, but it takes 9 hours. And you wonder why. When you get there, you'll see. It's very, very rough in there. It's all overland. You see the ocean in places, but not very much. And you're in deep temperate rainforest and bogs the whole time. And it's quite rough, especially because your pack's at the heaviest. And if it's wet, it's really slow. If it's dry, it's faster. Make your pack light and hope that you have a dry trip. The next section, typically what we hike, is from Skinner to Cape Siddle. That's the next hardest section. It's about the same distance, 8.5K, we'll call it. This section, and for Adam, if he's still watching, heading off into Whitty, this is the section I'm talking about, which is the angled bog up to the Long Leg Hill, which is over here. This section through here, I call it the angled bog because you're going uphill and it's really wet in there. That's debatably tougher than the Shishardi section to Skinner, except it's not as long. It's not as sustained because eventually you do come down to the beach here at Tripod Rock, and then there's a bit of beach hiking in and out, especially after low tide, and you end up on a final 1K on the beach, which is typically the easiest hike of that day. So day 2 can be as tough as day 1. My favorite day, because it takes me to my favorite campsite, and I think it's got the most interesting geology of the trip, is day 3. And that's going to be going from Cape Suttle to Irony Creek. And it's just gorgeous. You go around the northernmost point on Vancouver Island here, or you bisect it here. So this is Cape Suttle. You bisect it and you pop it on this side, and you start to get really nice views of the Cape Scott side of the park. And you can even see the Scott Islands way out here on a good day. So you can zoom out. You can see the islands, which are way out here. So you can just see how remote this is. You're way up on the northern tip of Vancouver Island. Irony Creek is debatably the nicest beach on Vancouver Island. It's called Shuttleworth Bight. It's about 2 kilometers long of white hard sand. It's absolutely epic and one of my all-time favorites. The campsite's on the the east side of the beach. Little dyslexia popping up in there. The west side of the beach is where the river comes out, and there is the second cable car crossing here. Day 4 is your biggest coastal hiking day typically, because once you get around Strandby River here, that's the crossing, the Strandby cable car. Once you get around here, there's a lot of beach hiking. You go in and out of these headlands, but they're quite short little bits here. And eventually you're going to get past Turnaround Point, the Tombolo, and then it's all beach hiking from around Wolf Track Beach here. It's, well, now when I say beach hiking, that's not sand. That's maybe a little sand, but a lot of everything else that's on the beach. If you're wondering what kind of terrain's out there, everything that you can imagine: gravel, rocks, driftwood, slippery, tidal, algae, everything. So you're really looking for the best line. Pea gravel, all different sizes of boulders, but not big boulders like the Thrasher boulders. That's the only thing there isn't out there. Eventually, you're going to get to Laura Creek, which is typically the next campsite. Unless it's full, you may opt, if you don't want a squished in scene there, especially if it's a really high tide that night. And the tent pads are full and everyone's packed up into the creek here and all the sites. And it's a real squish where you're going to be like looking at your neighbors through the vestibules when you open them up. I would opt to hike up and over if you have energy and you have the skill and expertise to continue your day and make it a longer day, and get on a Nissen bite here because there's way more camping opportunity. And this is also where the new composting outhouses start, the urine diversion toilets, the brand new ones. So once you get to Nissen, it's the official end of the North Coast Trail. And there's also more infrastructure. There's brand new outhouses that were just put in the last couple of seasons. They're really nice condition. They smell less than your typical pit toilets for the rest of the trail. Beautiful camping on the Nissen Bight. And if you're getting a pickup like we do at Fisherman Bay, you're right beside it. And that's the end of the official North Coast Trail. And I'm not going to spend more time going into the rest of the trail on this live stream, but stay tuned. We'll be posting something in the next little bit. So yeah, that's the route. Hopefully that's helpful. Lara's chatting in there with Annalisa about hiking speed about 1 kilometer per hour. Yes, there's lots of sections of the North Coast Trail on the east side where you're doing 1 kilometer per hour. Is typical. It's normal. It's tough, especially if it's wet. Okay, folks. Well, hopefully some of this is helpful. I'm gonna just start winding it down here. So I'm just gonna organize my tabs so I can do a conclusion here. I'm glad I got to share the route with you there. And then we'll do the giveaway because you want to see that. Okay, everything should be there. Okay, we're still got 20 of you on YouTube. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Keeping the chat going there. Thank you. So I'm just gonna get going to the conclusion here. Pokemon. Couple of last minute questions come in at the conclusion. The water situation, the first section, depends. Right now, there's a lot. In the driest of summer, you want to start in with some water. You got to have water off the boat. Highly recommend you have 2 liters at least to start, because on a dry season, that first section can dry right out. And you have to know where the little holes of water are. They're there, but if you don't know where they are, it may be tricky for you to find them if it's really dry. So I would just have at least 2 liters to get you, start the day hydrated. Obviously, before you even get on the boat, you're fully hydrated. You can pee off the boat, you can pee at Shashardi, and then have 2 liters of water to start. 1.5 minimum if it's dry. If you're out there and it's wet like now, there's water everywhere. So it really depends. How much water do you need? It depends what the weather and route conditions are before you get out there. But on a drought, then you definitely need to bring some extra to start from Shashardi. There's no fresh water at Shashardi that's easily accessible. Mark's dropping in. Any other concerns about advice about going the opposite directions? No, I've hiked it both directions and they're both amazing. It's just a little bit more logistically challenging to line up your water taxi. Because the water taxi during the summer when it's really busy, there's more of a scheduled service going from Port Hardy to Shashardi, and there's a scheduled North Coast Trail shuttle van coming out of Cape Scott parking lot back to Port Hardy. So going the opposite direction, you'd have to line up your pickup in Shashardi with a drop off and make sure that there's room for you on that. There's not a group of 12 at Shashardi already on the boat. So you got to talk to the transportation folks and the Babe Burrows. She knows everything. George drives the boat. George Burrows drives the boat. Babe Burrows does everything else. So yeah, talk to Babe. She'll set you up. Okay, folks. Any other questions that come in the chat, I'm going to just catch up with them later because I got to wind down here. We're getting at 6 o'clock. So we're going to start wrapping up the live stream so we can give away the awesome prize packages and the bonus prize for the new YouTube viewers. So I just shared a ton of content with you. Hopefully some of it was valuable and will help you plan safe, fun, and successful trips on the North Coast Trail in 2026 and beyond. So we're going to do the live stream giveaway now. This is the fun part. So there's going to be a few steps here. We try to keep it simple, but there's a few different things here that you need to do. Just scrolling down here. Okay, so first you had to participate in the chat to enter. So you had to say hello or ask a question or something in there. Second, you're going to go to our mbguiding.ca website and you're going to go to our contact page. So you can either click on the menu here and go to contact, or you can scroll down to the bottom of any page and click on contact because you want to get to the contact page. So this is mbguiding.ca contact. You're going to fill out the contact form. You're going to put your first name, your last name, an email address that I can reach you at, and the subject is live stream giveaway. So in the subject, put live stream giveaway so I can search and find it in my emails. In the message, put your YouTube handle so I can cross reference with your chat on YouTube. So put your YouTube handle in there because typically I see a lot of YouTube handles are absolutely nothing to do with the person's name. So put your YouTube handle in there. And if you have a question or you just want to say hello in there, just type it in there as well. But at least put your YouTube handle. But feel free to ask a question there too. And when I get back to the winners, I also get back to everybody that's asked a question in the messages from all the entries. Then you need to agree to receive communications from me and then send. And just know that you can always undo that. So once you win or not win and you don't want to hear from me, just say you don't want to hear from me and it'll stop. So just know that you're going to fill this out and agree, and then you can always unsubscribe later. So go to the contact form, first name, last name, email address, subject is live stream giveaway, and then the message, ask a question, say hello, and certainly put your YouTube handle in there so I can find you. And then it's going to be just me tomorrow at, let's look at the time, at 6 o'clock now. Yeah, so tomorrow at around 6 p.m. Pacific time, so in 24 hours, I'm going to draw the winners, and then I'll contact the winners with instructions to claim the prize packages. Make sure you put your YouTube handle in the message field. So good luck, everyone. And if you're watching the replay, this all applies to you too. You have 24 hours in order to enter. Just make sure you say a comment on our YouTube, and we'll go back into Facebook and try to fix that up so people can watch the replay there as well. And so they can have an opportunity to enter as well. So yeah, Facebook wasn't as nice to us this evening. YouTube seemed to hold on for all this through, it seems. And yeah, hopefully some of this was helpful. And I'm just going to do a final wind down here. Go back to a couple of resources here so you can see these. Yeah, so go check out our website, mbguiding.ca. Scroll down to the North Coast Trail Cape Scott Provincial Park Trail Guide and the trip reports. We're going to be starting to add our 2026 trip reports in there. I've already added a trip report, which is in a separate spot on the Cape Scott side of the park over here from January of this year. So if you want a preview of what's been happening out there in 2026, this is where it's at. So keep your eyes and everything listening to all of our posts there, and that'll give you some information to help you plan a trip. Also, make sure you check out the Cape Scott Park website. So this is the official website for the Cape Scott Park, the North Coast Trail by BC Parks. This is where you're going to see all your advisories. So if there's any closures, make sure you open up and see the date and verify the information with another resource. So talk to people that have been out there. Make sure you check the weather forecast before you go out there, and make sure you learn the tides. All those links you can find on our website. If you scroll down into that North Coast Trail Guide, it's all there for you. We made it nice and easy. Yeah, so if you're keen on a guided trip, we do have some availability we just had 2 spots. They have to go in a pair for the West Coast Trail, so just email me if you're keen for that. They just happened. So we do have a pair on the West Coast Trail for 26. Otherwise, we're booking a 27. For the North Coast Trail, we're full. But if you're looking to join a trip, just add your name to the wait list, because what happens is when we add a new trip date, or a spot comes open on a trip date that's already there, you'll instantly get an email from our system, and first come, first serve, you can book in on there with us. There's also going to be some workshops coming up here soon. So we'll be adding to our wilderness navigation workshops. We're just waiting for word from our venues when they're going to be ready for us. So if you're interested in joining us on a field day, learning some navigation, I'm also doing field days if you're out in the Rockies. I'm working with the Interpretive Guides Association, and I'm doing workshops with them in April and in May. So check out their website. It's a really cool association. They're really into telling stories, and we help their guides learn how to navigate in the wilderness. So yeah, check it out and how to group manage if you're interested in that type of thing. And as always, if you have any questions about anything, you can contact me through the contact form or through my email, or message me on Facebook or Instagram are the two best places. Okay, folks, so we're planning out our spring live stream schedule, and would love your feedback on what you'd like to see next. More trip planning sessions, Q&A sessions, any other ideas, just share them in the chat in the comments, and we'll post the upcoming events on our social channels. Follow, subscribe, click on the events, get notifications when we go live again. If you enjoyed this live stream, give a thumbs up and leave a comment if you're keen for more. You can also share the replay, share our websites, and share our social channels too. So thanks so much for now. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, and see you on the trails. Bye-bye.